Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder and CEO of Publisher Purpose, and I am here for another book launch interview. And today I'm speaking to Katie Wood, who is the author of A Simple Seed of Growth, Gratitude, and Giggles. Hello, Katie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Oh my God, me too. Me too. I say this every time I'm having a conversation like this. I say this like I'm just so excited because it's launch day, it's launch month, it's launch week, whatever it might be. And so
Yeah,
I want to just kind of start with just first, how do you feel right now? Because like this is a big deal. You're an author now. So how do you feel? We'll start with.
it is a big deal. It's kind of one of those things where I don't think it hits you until that book um, enters your hands for the first time and you feel it and you hold it. And I mean, I lost it. I absolutely
Yeah.
like we were waiting, we were tracking the Amazon guy and it showed up and it entered my hands and I lost it. And it was like, it's almost like a reminder of it's so much work to create a book if anyone has been in that arena before. And you're almost exhausted when you do it. And the second it arrives in your hand, it's like that disappears. And you just it's so worth all the hard work. And it really does feel like $1,000,000.
Oh, it's so good. And I love when that's kind of the emotional response that happens because and a lot of times people do liken it to, having a baby, right? Like you're
Yep.
pregnant with it for at least nine
So
months with
long.
the baby, like a long time, right?
Yep.
So tell me about so it's a simple seed of growth, gratitude, and giggles. What what is the book about? What is the purpose of it? And kind of like why did you decide to take this on, given the fact that you just commented on how much work it is?
Yeah. So here's the book. I have it next to me because my kids do it every morning. And this is a book to really help empower our kids to start their day with the right mindset, to center their heart, and just really just start on the right foot. I have had a morning routine for about, I'd say, oh my goodness, 7 years now, where I get up before the sun and I center myself with reading something positive, becoming intentional for the day. I practice gratitude, I do some prayer and meditation, and I really get my head and my mind all and my heart in the right place before my four small kids come down and take over the day. And what I've noticed that the days that I do it versus the days that I don't are totally different.
Mm,
I am a mess when I do not center myself first thing, and
mm,
it's very evident. And here's what I noticed too: moms and dads, but mostly moms, I will say, we set the tone for the whole house.
yeah.
And when I don't have my energy in the right place, and energy is very real, that radiates onto my kids. And they leave this house just as cranky as I was because I didn't take the time to fill myself up first.
Yeah.
So when I noticed the power of that, it was COVID hit, and now I'm homeschooling four small kids, including a newborn. My
Oh,
husband's a paramedic and fireman, and he's gone all the time. And it was chaos.
yeah.
And one early morning, it was about 6 a.m. And Hadley, my second daughter, came down, and I had my candle out, like just my peaceful time. They're not even allowed to enter at that moment. But she whispered in my ear, and she's like, "Can you teach me to have great mornings?" And
Oh,
what I didn't know at the time, she planted a seed in my heart that day, and a chill
oh,
went down my back. And I'll just stop and say, when you have that feeling that overcomes you, where it feels so right, like that
mhm.
famous Oprah aha moment, do not ignore it. And right
Yeah.
then and there, when she said that, it hit me. I'm like, how have I
Mhm.
not taught my kids this magic of starting your
Yes.
morning the right way? And that's when I hit the Google search bar. I'm like, yes, let's look up a journal for kids to start the day right. And I'm like, I need something with a life lesson, gratitude,
Mhm.
intention, something to make them smile. I Googled so hard that my fingers actually hurt because nothing was out there that
Yeah.
really encompassed all of it in a quick hit. And as entrepreneurs, when there's a problem and you deep down know that you can come up with a solution, but it's not there, you create it.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, I did not want to because I knew it would be so much work and I just didn't think it was the right time in my life.
Yeah.
But that knowing, that feeling I had inside me was so strong that I had to do
Mhm.
it. And I had an old field trip piece of paper in front of me I turned it over because they weren't going on field trips because of
Yeah.
COVID. And I started making one with a paper and pen. And they started doing it. And about a month in, I started sharing it on social media,
Mhm.
and my inbox flooded. People were like, where did you get these sheets? Where I need to do gratitude with my kids and teach them these life
Mhm.
lessons. And the rest is history. I knew at that point that I didn't only owe it to my own kids. There's so many other kids that could benefit from this, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you, it's made a huge difference in our family.
That's so good. And so we actually have somebody that's watching live who said, yes, what a great book to raise compassionate and spiritually aware little humans. So
Yeah.
how
Oh, I
awesome.
love that. Yes. Yes. I mean, I think it's the greatest gift we can give them. I mean, we all saw the last 2 years how much unknown there is in the world, and there's so
Mhm.
much that is out of our control. But what we can always control is our attitude, our mindset, and our effort
Mhm.
about how we're going to react to the things that are out of our control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my goal is to give these kids that growth mindset, that grit, that I can figure anything out
Mhm.
mentality, so that one day when I let them go into this crazy unknown future, that
Yeah.
they can handle whatever's thrown their way. Because at the end of the day, like we have this opportunity to build those strong roots,
Mhm.
and give them that strong foundation. And kids are so untainted, they are a blank slate. What a gift that parents have this opportunity. And it's one time. It's
Yeah.
not a long time. It's a short window. And the
Yeah.
more we pour into them, the stronger their roots become.
Yeah. And how involved did you include your kids in the process of doing this?
A lot. I asked them for a lot of feedback. They would tell me when entries they weren't processing it, they weren't getting it, and I would change my tone in the book with it.
Mhm.
Um, they have done every single entry. I mean, now they haven't done it in this sense. They've done it on
Yeah.
like scrap pieces of paper, and they love now having it all in one place.
Yeah.
They're a huge part of it. They're not only a huge part of it in terms of what to write and so forth. A lot of my life lessons came from experiences that we have had through
Mhm.
sports, through medical, through medical issues, a major surgery my daughter had, being
Yeah.
a Boston Children's Hospital kid. Like, there's so many life lessons that have come from them and experiences. Um, but I will tell you, they were the why behind it. Writing a
Mhm.
book is so difficult, but I always say, I think so many people hesitate because they feel they need to know every step of the journey of how they're going to do it, and that's simply impossible.
Yeah.
If you know your why of why you do what you do, I knew exactly why I was writing this book.
Yeah.
If the how works its way out,
Mhm.
and it was very difficult to create, but I knew it would be so much harder to not create and live with that. What if this could have been something that could change some kid's life?
Yeah, it's so profound. And I think what's really interesting is that you were also leading by example in that same moment with your kids, right? Because you were talking about, just kind of finding solutions for problems. And like, so I'm sure they were watching you, right? They're a bunch of mini yous and your husband who are just kind of watching you furiously looking through Google and not being able to find what you were looking
Yep,
for. And then to have been brought on the whole journey of
the whole
completing this.
journey.
How amazing is that for little people to have that opportunity to kind of like see all of the work that your whole family collaborated on into a book that's actually helping other people now? Like that's just so amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It is. And you know what? More is caught than taught. You can teach them all day, but unless you're walking the walk, and
Mhm.
unless I'm doing a morning routine and centering myself, why should they?
Yeah.
None of this would have happened if that little one didn't come down and say, I want great mornings too.
Yeah.
And it's so cool too. Like, there's little things on this book that no one will probably pick up on, but
Mhm.
my kids are a part of, like the tiny little inchworm my
Mhm.
daughter Austin wanted. The hearts
Aw.
represent my Boston Children's little girl who always has seen hearts that in
Mhm.
nature. Hadley came up with a bunch of these words. And then the idea, if you look at the seed growing on the bottom right, because
Mhm.
it shows, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit, you grow over
Yeah.
time. She came up with that. So they
Mhm.
all have a part of it, which is so cool that this is, my little And my husband, because he's been a huge part of this,
Yeah.
our legacy to them.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love all of this so much. And I love that you said that, when you have the why, the how works itself out. Because I feel like I say that a lot to people because it really, to me, the why, it's the North Star. So when you have those
Yep,
derailments or hiccups in the process that you weren't expecting, when you at least have that concrete why, everything else
that's
falls back
right.
into place because you're like, okay, let me just recenter. Okay. I can figure this out. This is a problem. Like everything's figure outable, which is, I think, is a Marie Forleo quote that
Yep,
I
sure
love
is.
that quote. And so, what was your first, I guess, your first next step? So you had the idea. Then, like,
Hmm.
how did you figure out where to go from kind of the idea and then like the starting of it to actually today?
So I just the doing. Like you have to have this unwavering faith and belief. And I knew deep down this would change my family.
Mhm.
And no author writes a book unless they needed it first. That's
Mhm.
just the truth, right? The honest truth. And
Yep.
we needed it. Like we were spinning out of control. And that unwavering faith in me was that I know this book is going to do wonderful things. And no, and I don't care how many copies it sells. I care how many lives are touched and the text messages that
Mhm.
I'm getting. And the yesterday a message about a little boy who hates reading. He's always cranky in the morning and he's been doing this book for 7 days straight. And the mom is like, I've never seen him pick up a book in his life, like on his own.
Mhm.
That is what fuels me. That unwavering faith back in the start is when I just knew it's a knowing. Like there's a difference between know and a knowing. And I had a
Mhm.
knowing inside of me. That was that
Mhm.
feeling. Like you kind of can't explain it, right? It's
Yeah.
like your love for a child. You can't come up with the words. It's a feeling.
Mhm.
And then the next step is massive action.
Mhm.
It's one thing to want to do something. I mean, how many people have watched Shark Tank being like, that was my idea. Like I came up with
Yeah.
that, right? Like we all have been in that spot,
Yep.
but we didn't take the action that's required. And it's a
Yep.
lot of work. And most people aren't willing to do that.
Yep.
Or they can't handle the hiccups and the rejections and the challenges. But again, this book is teaching the kids that is part of the journey. So if you're getting the rejections and the hiccups, you're on the right path. And
Yeah.
when you know that and you can give your kid that knowledge, you're giving them an advantage in life. Because there's no such thing as smooth sailing. Life is
Yeah.
for everybody. That's why every Disney movie has that
Mhm.
boom and then
Yeah.
we all rise up again. It's
Yeah.
just reality.
It's so good. And so I know, so if we think about the process and we think about any hiccups that came along in the process, I feel like
Yeah, so many.
timing, right?
Yep,
I know there
so
were,
many.
there were, but that is just the nature of the beast, right? Like that is just
That's
how
right.
this happens. But I think
That's
the
right.
timing, just how long it took, was probably,
Hmm.
if I had to kind of like assess, would say that's probably the thing that probably had the biggest maybe impact or biggest thing you had to wrap your head around of like, okay, it's not going to be
Yep.
as fast as I want it to be. So, what was your kind of experience when you again, we're moving along, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can't actually do it as quickly as we wanted to. But you were also wise to slow down and do it right versus speed up and do it poorly.
Always, always. My mom taught me that. Like slow with attention to detail.
Mhm.
This journal will always have a need and a use. Like
Mhm.
don't she kept being like, do not rush it. Cause every time I'd submit it for edits, there'd be like 5,000 red marks that would come back. And I'd be like, I don't understand. Like I thought we already did this. And then another 5,000 red marks. There were so many edits. But at the end of the day, I'm a very big believer in trusting your journey. Like,
Yeah.
trust that when you finally finish and now there's a paper shortage and they can't get the book printed the way you were, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And again, you can't control a paper shortage, but you can control how you're going to act and respond. So
Yeah.
I think that to me is just so important to just again center
Mhm.
yourself, trust, and all good things in life take time. So yeah, this had like 18 different, I mean, 18 different deadlines. We just kept pushing it back and back
Yeah.
and back and back. And some were life, again,
Mhm.
4 small kids and a husband that's
Mhm.
gone a lot, and they already have an at-home business. A lot
Mhm.
going on. And then also the world and COVID and the shortage that's also very real.
Yeah. And I really appreciated how you kind of moved through that process, which is kind of walking your walk and talking your talk, right? Because you were able to
Mm,
kind of recenter rather than it turning into some kind of big explosion of, well, it was supposed to be done by this time. And it still could have been, but it would have been a
yep,
significantly different output. And that,
that's right.
and I say this to people all the time, your name is on this. So like, you're the author. It is
Yep,
your book. You cannot, like, once it is out there, you cannot take it back if you're like, ooh, I did, I rushed it and it looks like, it looks bad. The damage
that's
is done.
right.
Like, it's already out there. People already have
Yep,
copies of that bad
yep,
product. So I think you handled it very well, all things considered. And yeah, a paper shortage, supply chain issues, like everything that could occur for
it
authors in the
happened.
last 2 years or
Yeah,
so completely have been happening. And so
yeah,
it's just having the proper expectations kind of through the process to know that, all right,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
the
I
only
mean,
one.
yeah, exactly. And that's like motherhood. Like the best advice you can get for motherhood is to lower your expectations. And then when you're down there, lower them again. Like, and then you know what? You might as well go down another level and like lower them again. It's just, it's all expectations. It's just lowering them and being open to what is instead of what you want or expect because it never goes that way.
Yeah, exactly. And so let's talk about, so you have the fact that like this is meant for its kids, right? It's drawn for kids. Parents can buy it. This is the goal. We want children to start their mornings off right.
That's
However,
right.
I feel like speaking to people who might be in school systems might be a good opportunity here because there's also kind of a bigger kind of movement underfoot as it relates to this book too of being able to get this into school districts. So can you kind of explain your vision for that so that way if anyone happens to be watching this who has
Yep.
influence, maybe they can support it.
Yeah. So the whole goal is correct to help families go from chaos to connection. Um, and the bigger goal, which I would love, is to get this into schools because teachers are struggling. I think parents are drowning and teachers are struggling. And I think we have a lot of expectations on teachers. And as a former teacher, I'm very involved with the school, and I could see that it's been a lot for them.
Yeah.
And my daughter in fourth grade, my oldest, her teacher has been using this book all year long. And they have been doing it from a PDF. And this is how they start their day. And the teacher has said it has made a massive difference in her class. Her kids are now, the students are practicing gratitude on their own. Like it's becoming habit. That's the whole goal is to make this all a habit where all this goodness is in the front of your brain because most of us are just attracting negativity because unfortunately 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative unless you do something about it. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. That's the beauty of the brain. Whatever you can learn, you can unlearn. It can be changed.
Yeah.
And they have been doing this in schools, and it's been an amazing way to start the day because the reality is mental health is a real issue, especially now. Depression has never been higher. Stress levels are through the roof. And you
Mhm.
could teach 1 + 1 is 2 all day long. Unless you're in the right mind frame and your brain is actually accepting information, forget it.
Yeah.
It's going to go in one ear out the other. So it is so crucial as us parents, because we are the first teacher, we are the most important teacher to do our part and help the teachers by centering them and sending them to school with the right mindset.
Yeah.
We've also done a lot in our local school of getting decals and putting them on all the bathroom stalls to empower the kids in the bathroom with these messages. Because the more you read it, the more you start to believe it, and you become what you believe. We also have gone to all the staircases and put messages walking up the stairs. We're reshifting our school. So not only is this simple seed the vision to plant these seeds in our kids' minds and hearts, but then to have these messages throughout the day. So they're constantly filling themselves with goodness that they eventually start to become that. And that's the big vision in of making this, bringing schools and parents together.
And so if there was a school that wanted to take you up on this, how would they go about doing that? How do they contact you?
So I think the best way would be simpleseedjournal@gmail.com. Or my Instagram is kwood40 or Katie Wood on Facebook. Any of those, I will respond. And we have a lot of schools interested. And we're in the process of trying to get these books ordered fast enough so that they can implement it in their schools. But it's been a really positive response, both for the parents and the schools.
I love all of this, and I apologize for the background noise if you can hear it. Uh, can we talk about the One Tree Planted partnership that you've created? Because as a company that's a B Corp, which means that we're living to environmentally and sustainable practices and such, I love this so much. So can we talk about what the origin of that idea was and why this organization, et cetera?
Yes. So, my sister, she has always been an advocate for a voice for the trees. That's what we always say. If I like clean up trash, and she's like, the trees are bowing to you. She's always been a voice for the tree. She's done a ton with our town of recycling in the schools, and we just had a Canton cleanup day for Earth Day. It's amazing. She has totally inspired me. And when I was creating this book, I like to do a give back with everything we do. We have a big rigged hat foundation that we donate money to different foundations. I'm a very big believer in the more you give, the more you get, but do not give to get. Just put that into the world. And so when we decided One Tree Planted, it takes a lot of trees to plant this book, to create this book. And without the trees, we wouldn't have the book. So what we're doing is we have partnered with One Tree to help plant trees. So every time a book is sold, it helps a tree get planted. And this company is born in Vermont. So we plan to visit one day, but we are taking a chunk of the proceeds to put it back into the world. And so that little seeds are planted in your heart, your mind, your soul, and across the earth.
I love that so much. Just it's magic
Thank
because yes,
you.
that's like the one downside to publishing books is that I know that we are slowly taking more trees away from the universe. But at the same time, there's very simple things like this that can be implemented that can offset, right? That at least we can
That's right.
offset that. Yeah,
That's right. If
absolutely.
you're gonna, if you're gonna take, again, you gotta give. And it's,
Mhm.
no, it's a perfect foundation for us because it is the seed. Like we are literally planting a seed
Yeah.
back in.
I know it's like it's the perfect everything just ties in beautifully with the simple seed, the trees, the growth, the roots, all of it. Like all of it
Yeah.
is perfectly tied together. So I know that
Yeah.
your
Thank you.
preference right now is for people to buy the book on Amazon, right? That's where you want to kind of drive anybody who's interested in it to check it out on Amazon, correct?
Yes, please. Yep. Yep. Amazon is the best way. We've had a bunch of people leave reviews. I'll tell you, reviews are hard to get. I have such a different appreciation now that I'm in this arena. They're so hard to get, but they're so powerful. And I'm just becoming so much more mindful about leaving reviews for other people now and other products that deserve it. There's behind that book is a person who had a dream and then brought that vision to reality. So Amazon is the best place, but if you want more information on decals or speaking to schools or sports teams, I've played Division 1 basketball at Providence College. I've spoken to a lot of youth athletes about mindset because mindset is 100% what makes up any athlete. And we've talked a lot. I've done a lot of talking to little athletes, and if you go to simpleseedjournal.com, you'll find all that information about One Tree Planted, the decals, the book, speaking to sports teams, and other talks that that I've been blessed to be able to do.
I'm trying to put it up now. A simpleseedjournal.com, you said?
It's
Oops.
it's simple seed, not a simple.
Simple seed.
Simpleseedjournal.com.
All right, we'll scroll that across the bottom. So if anyone wants to
Yep.
check it out, I think that's fantastic. You are doing so much good in the world, and it just makes me so
Oh,
happy that we were able to partner with you on this because it's just
thank you.
absolutely just incredible, just knowing how many young lives, and then the lives that they orbit, right? The teachers' lives, the parents, the children. Like it's such
That's
a
right.
beautiful mashup of all of the goodness. So I'm so happy that we did
Thank
this.
you.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to bring up?
No, I just thank you for this experience. You guys have been incredible. No, I think the biggest thing, yeah, it's that ripple effect. Like one of the entries I didn't even show on here. It's, there's the morning joke and the I am, how you speak to yourself. But right here is who can I make smile today? And then a parent perspective underneath. But the who can I make smile today, it's such a, like, my daughter, like, her little friend Louise, like, so you're going into the school knowing you're gonna find Louise and make her smile, and you don't know if Louise had a good morning or a bad morning. You don't even know what that could do to her day. So I love making kids more self-aware, more intentional about making others people's lives better. Because I tell my kids all the time, if you want really good friends in life, well, you need to be a good friend. So if you want more people to smile at you and brighten your day, because there's so much power in a smile, you need to go out and make more people smile. And then at the bottom is a chance for parents to give their perspective on the life lesson. So if the life lesson was about, how failure is life's greatest teacher, the parents are going to say, "Can you give an example of when you failed, but now looking back, how that helped you? It was really rigged in your favor. How?" And now parents are connecting with their kids on a deeper level. So at the end of the day, families, there's no such thing as too much connection. And I think connection is actually probably lost today's day and age because of what we've all been through. And, so many families have been turned upside down. This is really to bring families back and plant those seeds. There's 100 life lessons, gratitude, all this goodness that you can pour into your kid without having to do the work. Like, you don't have to Google life lessons. Like, they're here, teaching our kids that things that we probably wouldn't think of off the
Hmm.
top of our head
Yeah.
on like just a, on an everyday occasion, and sometimes until it's too late.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you a very quick example. I did an entry on know when to be rude. And, a
Mhm.
lot of times we teach our kids, especially our daughters, be polite, say hi, look them in the eye,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
respond, they're talking to you. But there's also a time and a place where you don't need to be
Right.
polite and look people in the eye and just say yes. You got to know when to say no. And
Yeah.
you got to pay attention to the feeling in your gut. And I've taught my daughters this. There's a time and a place. And if you don't feel right with somebody, pull
Mhm.
your rude card. You have the chance, be rude, pull it, and don't be afraid to do that. These are things that
Yeah.
sometimes are lessons that are taught in hindsight when it's too late.
Yeah.
And this book is about being proactive and two
Mhm.
steps ahead to plant these seeds and give them that toolbox so that
Mhm.
they are firmly planted, knowing their worth.
Mm. That's such a beautiful lesson for kids, especially for kids, because we're taught not to be rude. I love that. I love that
No,
you're like, pull the rude card.
right.
That's
Pull
brilliant.
the root card. And they read it and they're like, "Really? I can do this?" I'm like, if it's the right time and place, you better believe you can.
Yeah. And you're like, and I will back you up as your
And
parent.
I will back you up. Mom will always have your back.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Oh my God. This has been so amazing. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes talking about this. And for, as we mentioned, Amazon is the preferred choice to go purchase the book through, and leave a review. I say this every time, leave a review. As you
Yeah,
just mentioned, Katie, it is very difficult to get people to follow through
very.
in that. People have good intentions. They want to leave a
Yep.
review, but so this is a PSA for everybody, for any products that you buy anywhere, to just spend the 5 minutes it'll take to just say something kind and positive, or be
Yep.
honest.
Yep.
And in this case, I think all the reviews are going to be fantastic, but just leave an honest review of what
Of
you're getting
course.
out of this, because it helps other people who are looking for this find it, and that's really the whole purpose. It's not to make you feel great about what you've done;
Yep.
it's to help other people
That's right.
find the information that they're looking for.
That's right. Thank you. 100%. That's right. You're doing your part in a way by
Hmm.
spreading the seed.
Absolutely. Ah, thank you so much. I really appreciate
Jen,
you.
thank you.
Cannot wait to see what the further success looks like with all of this. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you too. Thanks for having me. This has been really an honor and such an awesome thing to do. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet. All right. And everybody else, I
All
will be
right.
back for the next launch interview at some point in the near future.